First of all, I just want to start saying thank you, God. I say thank you, God, because as I'm dying, as they're doing things apparently, they make me blind. I can feel it. I think what's happening to my organs are going to cause me blindness. And I say that understanding that this is not only happening to me, but they're really damaging my body. Probably my liver or my kidney that, would cause me to just lose my sight. And I ask God to give me strength for whatever I'm going to go through. But I know that there's people going through worse than me in this program, especially those who have kids specifically, because they are not only the one getting tortured, but the worst part is having a child that's tortured and blinded and diseased and tortured in this way, and you can do nothing about it. Even maybe the physical pain is not the same level as what I'm going to experience. The psychological pain is way worse. And so I'm aware that even though I'm not a parent, I can understand that if this is happening to me, I deal with my pain, my sufferance. But when you have to deal with somebody else's pain, that's your child's pain, that's something else. And that's something that can be worse than physical pain. And can push the target individual to just even be more on the suicidal side. But I ask God to give me strength, and I don't want to sound just cold even in my own torture, but there's sufferance of way more vulnerable people than me. And all I've asked is to ask God to give me strength till the end. And I'm so thankful too that I didn't live life like this trash. In this program, there's a bunch of stupidity implanted in your brain. It's stupidity. And they're really gaslighting you into a level of stupidity. They have no shame. And I noticed this perps are out of touch with reality. They disconnected. As I say that, they try to manipulate my brain, but they're so disconnected with reality that I have a body cam on me. When you see it in real time, how this perps need to counter reality is bad. And these perps don't even lack when I look at the videos of my body cam, because this is in real time. Look at this clown. This look like some avenging justice seeker group or individual? No, it looks like trash in a program led by government, acting in certain ways for the purpose of doing disturbing things. It looks like what it is. Now these fantasized ways they try to portray reality. Especially when you see those teenagers, this trashy low life was yeah, no, it's a war, and it makes themselves talk like that. You see what your word looks like? It looks so fraudulent, it's obvious. It looks like some bottom feeders for governmental entities involved in a program where human beings are being utilized in this way, and they're all acting theatrical. They don't even like to hear themselves when they play this feminist, and not even feminist, I should say, this menacing individual. They have different facade. Gender, for me, has been used a lot to camouflage the reality of what this program is about. But they do that to women too. Like I said, there's a high volume of womanly individual participating. And I think it is because in reality, when you think of a woman and a man, who makes you feel more where you think morality stand on men or women, right? When a male perp does that, it's less it looks more like what it is versus what a female. That's just how society, but they utilize that. And other target individuals, inclusive of women, say the same things. There's a lot of female. It's they're using their womanliness, their gender, to camouflage the atrocities that they're part of. And I used a lot in the gaslighting into making the target individual identify with this manipulation, especially with women. So using female gender perps to gaslight a female target individual is common because it makes it's an easier way for the target individual to be accepted of false reality. And to do the same with me. But with me, they're no, you'll see that we're going to make it pay because we're just different, and because our gender are just like that. It's we're not the same program that's out here frying the life of these women and children and destroying their life because we look like that. It's fuck you. You're not going to cover up what this program is and what it does to women and children because of your gender. or your nurturing way you appear, and the stupidity that they implant in my brain. They try to cover up. Listen, just like many other target individuals, which you're going to hear, another example. I was put in this program by an old employer before I moved to New York. Matter of fact, a lot of the reason why I'm in New York is because of it, if not most of it. The first time I came in New York was because I used to work. I worked for this company, and I was here for work. I came to New York and I was like, oh, this is a place I can see myself live. But then, once I no longer worked at that company, I wanted to get away as far away from them because I noticed that things were happening. And I thought maybe New York would be the best place I could be in, away from there, and less in their reach. And whatever thing that was happening because of this old employer. But I realized what they put me in was way worse than what I thought. They put me in a program where I'm a target individual. Which means wherever I go in the world, even in a third world country, it will happen to me. And I noticed that because I left that country. I left this place in New York City and went to this third world country, and it was still happening. So I've realized, they put me in something where everywhere I go in the world, they're going to do that to me. So might as well just come back to New York and stay in New York. Then I found out about target individual, made videos. And then a few months later, after making about 20 or so videos, I got employed, and they of course participate in this program, and I knew they were going to participate because at that point I knew what this program is. Wherever you go, they'll follow you. They'll do this. There is no escaping. I've understood that when I left the country in 2019, around November. And then in the summer of 2020, I realized, this is what target individual is. That's what's happening. So it's funny, today they try to erase so much. First of all, who put me in this program, which I've described that company very well in my first video. So if you ever go watch my first video, if you do your research, you'll know who I'm talking about. I made it very clear without saying the name. My current employer is trying to kind of erase that. I'm like, oh gosh, how can you even erase that? I've recorded this. It's such a delusional to think that that you can paint in something other than that. But who put me in this program, I know, and not unique to just me. Other target individuals say sometimes that in some cases the target individuals have said that the employer put them in this program, and for me it's the same. I know they're the one who put me in this program. I know things changed after a few months after I started working for them. I know they're the one responsible for putting me in this circumstance, and now wherever I go, it's over. They finished me. They destroyed my life. I might be alive, but I was already dead way before I came to New York, and I didn't even know it. God. And as I'm saying that, they try to mess with me because the song is a lyric song that they're like, you sing that. It's so stupid what's happening in my brain. But that is part of this program. Forced stupidity is at a high level, and this brings back to this. When I was working for that company, I already noticed weird things was happening. Right now, looking back, I was like, they were working on the slenderest things they do. Before you even know what's happening to you, a lot of us target individuals, there's a behind the scene that's happening. There's a slenderest defamation campaign that's happening that you're not aware of. You just start realizing people are acting weird, but you can't tell what it is. Notice they're acting weird, they're acting oddly, and there's a weird behavior that you don't understand exactly what it is. But what is happening is they're already defaming you, painting you in the wrong way. This is not an investigative program. This is a program that is meant to destroy the life of target individual, but utilizing this target individual as human subject. So first they try to paint the target individual in something that they're not. Guess what it is? Yeah, they try to paint them as like pedophiles. That is the most common defamation that target individuals deal with. That's why a lot of target individuals are then being manipulated to have these pedophilia type of experiences, even mothers with children. That's what this program does. But they try to find ways to paint that. It's like they not just they look for what they can use to try to paint you that is the design. The plan here is, okay, this is a target individual. We need to paint him in this pedophilia-centric way. What can we do? What can we bring up? What can be utilized? How can we make it look like that? How can we present it like that? How can we... But the thing is, they do that to all target individual. Even mothers with children are forced to get sexual. Let me just say that this is disgusting. So it's not... You don't need to be a genius to see what's happening here. Because they do this thing to so many others, to some that you, how can you even try to paint this person as a pedophile when she's the mother of these children, and also then these things are happening to her. And then they use this teenage trash and this low life that do the same thing. With me, it's the same. Now they do this today. They do this nasty manipulation. They do to other target individual. Even mothers toward their own children. But with me, sometimes they want me to be fucking retarded. They want me to think that they're just assessing and analyzing things, when in reality they just manipulate and they just try to figure out what kind of nonsensical regress rationality they can implant in my brain to make me subscribe to this. Not too long ago, what they just did, which they do that all the time. Listen, they can make you have sexual arousals. You recognize the sexual arousals as being the manipulation they do. Sometimes they make me have this stimulation that I know is manipulated. And like, okay, what's happening? Is there a child around me? Because they do these nasty things every time I see a child. Or a lot of the times. Sometimes it's more intense than others. Sometimes even before I see a child, they force me to have the stimulation. Like, oh crap, there's going to be a child. Because they start forcing me to have this experience via this technology. And sometimes what they try to do to make me think, oh, we're just like assessing and matching. They make me have the same sexual arousals that are forced onto me toward these children. But toward a woman that's naturally, organically, if I looked at her, if I see her, I can perceive her. Or I can imagine being with her. But forcing me, as I'm say that they try to play with me, as I'm seeing her, give me the stimulation and the sensation that they do to me toward children. Now, obviously, when they do that toward these women, it doesn't break me down, okay? Because naturally, I can look at this woman and have a sexual reaction. Maybe not sexual reaction, but I can imagine myself being sexual with this woman. As I'm saying that they try to gaslight me and try to bring up this PDL, it's just stupidity. I'm telling you, the stupidity in my brain is unmatched right now because they're implanting retardation. But they make me have sexual arousals that are falsified, that are created, that are manipulated toward women. That if a grown woman my age, that naturally I could imagine myself being with. And the reason why they do that, because they're like, yeah, we're matched. And it's so like, and they think I'm like, oh my, who can fall for this stupidity? You just maybe have the same sexual arousals, and be like, we're matched. It's like they're creating this retarded like patterns that it's like, okay, like you wouldn't be able to do that to a grown woman and be like, oh, you see, those are similar. They do that to other target individual. Sometimes they just to annoy you, they force you to get sexual arousal toward your boss or something like that. Not because it's degrading in a sense of like that level of like pedophilia centric, but just degrading just to be forced to get sexual arousal. They did that to me like when I was in the interview. They started making me imagine some disturbing things toward this male interviewer. Disgustingness. Sometimes they toward women like, oh, this is it. So they did the same thing. I'm like, oh, I can recognize the fall of the fake stimulation. It's like you're just trying to do the match thing. And they really think that people can be like, okay, I don't know what you're doing. I hope you heard the noise campaign. The people who force mothers to get sexual arousals toward their own children. Will not be able to force me to get sexual arousal toward a regular woman. To make it look like they're just not manipulating me to have the sexual arousal toward children. It is so retarded. It's scary. But they have a whole ecosystem of clowns trying to gaslight you and the stupidity. That you're not being manipulated in these degrading ways because you see, you just felt the same sexual arousal toward this grown woman. This is how stupid it is. And then they go back to when I was employed by these people who put me in this program. If you go watch my video, there's a video about Cubicle, which they were already acting this way. Listen, I know that now today, that what was happening behind the scene is they were already starting the defamation and working on how they're going to paint me and how they're going to paint me in this disturbing way. They make me think of when this coworker of mine comes. And by the way, they've changed my memories of that. That's why I made a video called Cubicle. She comes with her family. There's a child, a little girl who's like 4 or 5 years old. The husband and her. They come and in this family, in this program, in this company, is very family oriented, right? They have this like the way to kind of, you have like this like protocol of making yourself look like the most motherly, family-oriented person that you can. So she came and visited the office on her time off, and she was saying hi to everybody in the office. And then they came to my cubicle. I'm like, okay, I hated to have this fake conversation because I didn't like these people, but you have to present yourself as a friendly person, like you interested about their life when you don't even want to have conversation with them. It's just like it's like a forced conversation that you try to not make it awkward, and especially if you don't know them very well, it's like what do you even talk about, you know? But I know the game. Let's be pleasant, let's be polite, let's be charming. As I'm saying that, I try to change my brain. And so they came toward my cubicle. I was like, hey, how's it going? And I talked to everybody. It's like, oh, so what you guys up to? And I see the little girl. And she's staring at me weird. She's looking at me. She got like a weird face. I'm looking at her. It's like she's funny looking. She's just like... And I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? Oh, good. And then she had like a stick on her shoulder. Or on her arm. I was like, oh, you have a tattoo? Wow. Are you in a gang? Right? I tried to be funny. And the stupidity. And the husband responds like, yeah, we just signed her up to the local gang around there. We're having banter, funny, pleasant banter, and it was good. It was a good conversation, and it was funny, and it was it was going smoothly. It was not awkward. As I said, it's funny. They try to make me think stupid. The way they piece things together to make me retarded is amazing. But anyways, as they walk away, I'm like, okay, let's get back to work, because I was like, I just didn't want to, talking to them was just like kind of tiresome, because I really didn't like them. But you have to have this mask of just being pleasant when you don't really care about them. I don't like to have this forced small talk. I don't care about how's your family and what. It's like I don't care about this thing. I don't care about your life. So they walk away. I'm like, okay, I can now focus on this, and I just don't have to pretend like I care about what's happening in their life. As I say that, By the way, they were trying to make me think, because they were stimulated. No, because I just didn't want to be socially talking to them about their life when I don't care about what they're doing and what they're going to do and what's in the... So finally, they walk away. I'm like, okay, I just don't care. I still don't care about what's happening over there. And there's this coworker of mine. She comes and she just like walk across, like past me, and she just like keep looking at. It's so weird. I'm like, what the fuck is she doing? Now I think what was happening is, as I was having this conversation with his family, I guess I made myself sound too human for them and pleasant, so they wanted to go back to something that just wanted to make me look like, I'm not this like a nice guy. And so she wanted to walk around me and this and that. Maybe that's what they were doing, but I don't know. But they tell me like, no, what they were doing is they were matching how you're looking at this little girl versus how you look at this woman, and they were matching, and they saw some matches of trash. First of all, even this woman, the way she was looking, they're giving me stimulation now, but she was acting weird. And she was like, it's like, you acting weird. And now they just try to go back and give me stimulation toward the woman. I'm like, Jesus. And it's like, yeah, they matched it. And we proved that it's trash us. A bunch of clowns. This is a program that's known to force women to have sexual arousal toward children. Their own children, I should say. This company sells industrial things. They put me in a program where they're known to be defaming and forcing target individuals to have these experiences. And you are here trying to... And they change the memories to give me actual stimulation toward the woman. Listen, the woman is not a bad-looking woman. She has, certain features about her that... But at that... When she was acting this way, it was like weird. I was like, whoa, why is she acting weird like that? They're going back in my memories to change me to have stimulation toward her. Just to say like, you said that stimulation, you felt like that. So they matched it to when you saw... Gosh. It's because they've been dismantled. This program is forcing target individuals to have sexual arousal toward their own children. And today, when they try to make me think still that they are just matching. This matching, you feel like this there, and you feel like that. It's matching. You're forcing me to get sexual arousal there. You're forcing me to have sexual arousal there. And you're forcing my memories to have stimulation in places where they weren't. And then send some fucking clowns in this program. It's like, yeah, we dared. And guess who says these things that they dared? The teenage trash known in the program to be participating in the gaslighting and the tormenting of target individuals, inclusive of mothers and children, mocking children's tortures to break the woman psychologically. I will never allow these clowns to think that their retarded ways of forcing me to think this way will make me subscribe to this. They tell me I'm going to be stabbed in so many ways. I'm like, just because you tell me how I'm going to be stabbed, or even if I'm going to get stabbed, you think it's going to make me subscribe to this thing? I'd rather rot in hell than let you live your fantasy. These clowns were like, yeah, you're going to torture this way, be cut this way, because they've been dismantled in the facade they wanted to paint. And they used all kind of facade of like this fierce, like feminists, like to try to like trash us. You force women to have sexual arousal toward their own children. Your meanness is known and systematic and can be paired with and can be matched with. Those are the words they use when they try to make me subscribe to this manipulation. Everything. They do the noise campaign to try to gaslight me. It's like the exact same thing they do to others. They even tell me to go and plant child porn to frame me. These people torture babies. Abuse them. Torture them. Sexually too. In such diabolical way. And mock the torture and the harm of these children to break the woman psychologically. Clown trash. I will never let them live the fantasy. But if I face them, I promise I will not let them be like, oh, we're just the matchers that don't manipulate the brain. Trash us for all the women who suffered, who can't even hold their own children without being forced to get sexual arousals to their own children. They end up breaking down the bathroom, and they're like, "No, you're just pretending to be sad because this is the real you." Fucking trash. Talking about just stay strong, and don't stoop to that stupidity that they want you to become. The same people who are able to make you have sexual arousal toward the youngest child, also they're like, oh, but you have the same reaction toward this woman, like as if they wouldn't just do that the same way and be like, oh, this is a match. Would us who are forcing mothers to have sexual arousal toward their children try to trick you in this fashion? Tiger men just stay strong. And look at the slow life where they are. What you're going to see here is a few videos. First of all, that picture you're seeing there is they forced me to get sexual arousal toward this woman. Now, I'm a male, straight man, and obviously, naturally and organically, I could see this or I can imagine myself being with this woman. Okay, they do this to just trying to make me subscribe to the nasty manipulation toward children. Apparently, if they force me to get sexual arousals toward this woman, they then try to be like, oh, but you see these arousals and act like you have the arousal toward this woman. Look the way she look. Obviously, it won't need too much manipulation here or any manipulation for me to imagine myself to be sexual with this woman. But forcing me to have sexual arousals that they do the same way toward these children, forcing me to get sexual arousals that's similar to the forced sexual arousals that they make me have toward these children, to be like, you see, we're just matching. No, it's a matching, it's not manipulation. With this retarded stupidity to try to make me identify with the things that they clearly do to others, which you're going to hear that. You're going to hear a woman being forced to get sexual arousal toward children, her own child. And you're going to hear how common that is. Then you're going to hear the foulness that we're talking about of this program that was put in. Then you're going to hear this overall aspect of this program, from how they manipulate the brain in these disgusting ways, how they harm children, how they use this forced stupidity to get you to subscribe to this, how they implant manipulation of memories, and how these teenage trash are being utilized. And then you hear other talking videos describing how they believe the employer, which sounds very familiar with what happened to me, put them in this program. But with me, what they try to do is like, there's a stage where they try to utilize or everything they can to paint you a certain way. There's already the goal of painting you the way they need you to be painted. And so whatever they can utilize, they will utilize. For me, the things they're like, oh, but I remember what you did when you were 8th grader. Matter of fact, I remember when they're like, oh, were you a good 8th grader? Because I did this dumb thing to myself when I was a child that I completely don't even remember, because it was such an impulse act of what a child can do in 8th grade that they've been trying to exaggerate. And then they've been trying to use, but for Britney, for Courtney, this women would remember this. And some of the things they try to be utilizing, but you follow this person, Ocean, who you thought on Snapchat, you thought she was they don't even say that I thought she was an adult. I actually find out that she was not when I follow her later on. I was like, what? She looked like that? Because somebody who looked like she was in her 20s when I was in my 20s. And I follow her, never even talked to her. Just somebody on social media that you never talk to. It's like, you see, they saw that and try to piece things together to paint themselves as like, yeah, we just, to paint you in a certain way and paint themselves as this, when in reality, this is a program that is meant to paint the target individual in a certain way, because they are actually using the human beings as a test subject and wanting you to internalize this nasty manipulation they force you to have. That's why they come up with the stories like, all along they were just like trying to, it's like they already trying to find a way to paint themselves as just investigating, protecting children, when in reality they put me in a program where they are going to rewire the brain in disgusting ways. And you're going to hear other talking videos describing the same thing. Some of them stay there and they start manipulating them in this disgusting pedophilia-centric way, because that's what this program does. It changes people into something they're not. and then try to gaslight them into internalize. Listen to this.
Biological stimulation with the visual presence of a child to force the target into a state of regressed rationality. The goal, from the TI perspective, is to break the parent's executive self by making them believe their own body has turned into a predatory weapon. 1. Testimony. The visual somatic sync. A female TI describes a coordinated event where the P hit, forced arousal, was triggered the moment her toddler walked into the room. I was sitting on the couch when my daughter ran in to show me a drawing. The exact second her face came into my line of sight, a massive P concoction, arousal and vibrations, hit my pelvis. It felt like a laser-guided strike. The V2K, voice to skull, immediately screamed, "Asterisk, look what you're doing to her. You're a monster." Greater than. I knew it was a technological trick, a visual somatic sync, but the physical intensity made my brain panic. I had to push her away and run to the bathroom to cry. The V2K then mocked my crying, saying I was acting to hide my true nature. They use your own child as a trigger for a weaponized sensation. 2. Claims of sexualized harm toward their children are described as the most extreme form of biosocial terrorism. TIs restate that the program uses directed energy weapons, DEWs, to deliver P-type predatory somatic hits to the children while forcing the parent to witness the child's distress, all while the community mocks the situation as a justified punishment for the parent. This is viewed as the ultimate tactic to induce social death and total psychological collapse. 1. Testimony. The somatic sync and community mockery. A TI parent describes the horror of realizing their child is being hit with the same forced arousal frequencies used on the target. My 4-year-old was sitting on the rug when she suddenly started squirming and crying that it itched and stung in her private area. She looked at me with this heartbreaking confusion. At that exact moment, I felt a P hit in my own pelvis. I looked out the window, and a group of teen perps were standing on the sidewalk, pointing at my house and doing vulgar humping motions. A nurturer perp, a neighbor mom, stood with them, laughing and nodding. The V2K whispered, "We're sinking her to your sickness." They were hitting a baby with a sexualized frequency and using the neighbors to mock us, framing the child's pain as a, quote, reflection of my own alleged crimes. 2. Testimony. The induced disease and medical mockery. Some TIs claim that the program induces physical symptoms of sexual harm, such as redness, discharge, or bruising, through thermal cooking, to trigger Child Protective Services (CPS) investigations. I noticed my son had what looked like friction burns in his diaper area. I knew it was pelvic cooking from the DEWs because the bed sheets were hot to the touch. When I took him to the clinic, the nurse, perp, gave me a disgusting look and said, "We see this in homes like yours." When we got home, the neighbors were all out on their porches, clapping as we walked inside. They were mocking the fact that my son was marked by the program. They used the child's body to create evidence for a P-frame, and the neighbors act as the, quote, jury that has already found you guilty. 3. Analysis. The mockery. The most common claim is that this arousal is triggered exactly when a child is nearby, such as in a park or a grocery store, to make the T, I feel like they are a closet predator. 2. Forced thought process and mental scripts. Beyond just images, TIs claim their actual internal monologue is manipulated. Word salad/directed thoughts. They describe perps injecting specific P-type words or phrases into their stream of consciousness. The TI may be thinking about their grocery list when a disturbing, unrelated thought about a child is slotted into their mind. The agreeable frequency. Yes, female targeted individuals, TIs, frequently report the same P-frame and P-type mental torture, though they often describe it being applied through a different social and psychological lens. While the core of the torture remains the same, implanted intrusive thoughts, forced physiological sensations, and social framing. Female TIs often state that the perpetrators exploit maternal instincts or social reputations to maximize the trauma. 1. The corrupted maternal instinct. Female TIs often claim that the program targets their natural protective instincts toward children. Induced aversion. Some report that while they are around their own children or grandchildren, they are hit with P-type intrusive images or V2K commentary. They describe this as a tactic to make them feel unfit or dangerous to their own families. Synthetic emotional responses. TIs claim technology is used to flip their emotions, inducing a feeling of coldness or disgusting thoughts when they should feel maternal love, creating a deep sense of psychological soul death. 2. Forced arousal and physiological shaming. Like male TIs, female TIs report forced sexual arousal via directed energy, but they often link it to different frames. The caregiver frame. Female TIs may claim they are targeted while working in professions like nursing, teaching, or childcare. They testify that perps trigger physical sensations or P-thoughts, specifically while they are performing their professional duties to make them feel like a secret monster in a position of trust. Public mirroring. TIs claim that just as they are forced to experience a synthetic physical sensation, a woman with a stroller or a group of teenagers will appear and signal that they know what is happening, often by touching their own nose or coughing. 3. The babysitter/mother social frame. The P-frame for women often involves the threat of losing their social standing or their own children. CPS weaponization. A major theme in female TI testimonials is the fear that perps are gathering neural evidence of these forced thoughts to report them to Child Protective Services, CPS. The whisper campaign. They claim female perps, neighbors or friends, spread rumors that the TI is unstable or weird around kids. This is seen as a way to isolate the female TI from the mom groups or community networks that usually provide support. 4. Psychological and biological factors. Medical professionals often look at how these experiences Yes, testimonials from the targeted individual, TI community, frequently state that perpetrators, perps, use advanced psychological and technological methods to force the victim to internalize the harassment. According to TIs, the goal of the handlers is to make the I believe that the disturbing thoughts, images, and P-frames are their own natural thoughts, rather than the result of external manipulation. 1. Internalization via gaslighting. TIs claim that perps use a tactic called neural gaslighting. This is the process of making the I doubt their own moral compass and identity. The "That's You" script. TIs report that V2K, voice-to-skull voices, will constantly whisper, "You thought that," or "That's who you really are," immediately after implanting a disturbing P-type thought. Moral erosion. The belief is that if a person is bombarded with the same intrusive imagery and arousal for long enough, they will eventually stop fighting it and accept the perpetrator's version of their identity just to make the cognitive dissonance stop. The therapy trap. TIs claim perps gaslight them by telling them the voices are their own subconscious or suppressed desires, echoing psychiatric language to make the I believe they are discovering a hidden evil side of themselves. 2. Memory narration. The life review tactic. A specific claim in the community is memory narration. Yes, testimonials within the targeted individual (TI) community frequently include detailed claims of induced perceptions and sensations specifically designed to support the P-frame. TIs restate these experiences as biochemical and neurological puppetry, where the goal is to create a false reality that the victim is forced to inhabit. 1. Induced physical sensations, biotelemetry. TIs claim that perps use directed energy weapons, DEWs, to trigger physical responses that are then mapped onto the P-frame. Forced nerve stimulation, the sensation of tingling, electric needles, or sudden warmth in the groin area. TIs claim this is timed to coincide with a child appearing in their line of sight, or even a child's voice on a TV show. The groinal response trap TIs describe being forced to feel a pulse in their private areas. They believe the handlers use remote neural monitoring, RNM, to detect if the TI is checking for a sensation, and then they boost the signal to make the TI feel as though they are experiencing genuine arousal. 2. Induced visual perceptions, synthetic telepathy. Beyond intrusive thoughts, TIs report a more advanced form of forced perception called synthetic vision, augmented reality overlays. Some TIs claim that when they look at a child or a teenager, their vision is augmented by the technology to make the child look more provocative or to highlight certain features. This is described as a digital filter placed over their actual eyes. Peripheral hallucinations claims that the program uses lasers or holography to make the TI see a child in their peripheral vision, e.g., in a dark hallway or a park at night, where none exists, creating a state. In targeted individual (TI) testimonials, claims regarding the sexual torture or genital pain of their children are often described as the most extreme form of leverage used by handlers. These parents describe specific physiological and behavioral indicators that they attribute to remote electronic manipulation rather than natural health issues. Here are the specific claims TIs make regarding these indications. 1. Indicators of genital pain and electronic hits. Parents in the TI community report that their children experience sudden, localized pain that the parent interprets as directed energy strikes. The jump response. TIs claim that their children will suddenly jump, wince, or clutch their genital area while sitting quietly. The parent interprets this not as a muscle spasm or clothing irritation, but as an invisible zap from a directed energy weapon, DEW. Unexplained redness or rashes. Testimonials often mention waking up to find burn-like rashes or red marks on a child's private areas. While doctors might diagnose these as contact dermatitis or heat rash, a TI parent often restates them as radiation burns from through-wall monitoring systems. Persistent itching or stinging. TIs claim perps use microwave frequencies to induce a persistent stinging or itching sensation in the child's genitals, intended pedophilic frame, manipulation, is considered one of the most prevalent and distressing forms of psychological harassment. While less discussed in mainstream media than gangstalking or V2K, it is a cornerstone of the identity liquidation theory reported by a significant portion of the community. 1. Prevalence? Common versus rare. Very common. Within the specialized forums and legal advocacy groups, such as Targeted Justice, the claim of a P-frame is a standard part of the harassment narrative. Many TIs report that the program eventually graduates from general noise harassment, clicks, to these specific moral and sexual degradations. The final phase belief: many TIs view the P-type torture not as a random attack, but as the endgame of the psychological operation. It is common because it is viewed as the most effective way for perpetrators to ensure social death, making the TI so radioactive to their community that they can never seek help. 2. Why it is a dominant narrative. The P-frame is prevalent because it targets 3 critical areas of the human psyche. The moral core. It attacks the TI's internal sense of being a, quote, good person. Public perception. It provides a justification for why neighbors or teenagers might be participating in the harassment. The legal trap: TIs claim this frame is used to prevent them from going to the police, as they fear the handlers will use hacked devices or synthetic evidence to frame them for the very thing they are being tortured with. 3. Comparison with other claims. Harassment type: prevalence in TI community. Level of psychological impact: gangstalking/street theater, universal. Privacy loss: P-type frame/degradation, common 40 to 60%. Extreme: identity destruction, genital burns, electronic rape, genital burn. In targeted individual TI testimonies, the employer is often portrayed as the primary architect or the gatekeeper of the targeting program. Many TIs claim that their employer was the one who nominated them for the program, often as a form of retaliatory workplace mobbing or to avoid paying out pensions and benefits. A central theme in these claims is that the employer spends months or even years socially priming the workplace with a P-frame, predatory narrative, long before any technological manipulation begins. 1. Testimony. The nomination for corporate sabotage. TIs frequently claim that being put into the program is a corporate solution to a problematic employee, e.g., a whistleblower or someone who outperformed a manager. I worked for a major tech firm. After I reported a safety violation, my manager's attitude changed overnight. I later realized he had signed me over to a corporate security program. Before I ever felt a P-hit or heard V2K, the defamation started. My boss started having closed-door meetings with my team. I'd walk by and hear the word predator or watch list. They were painting me as a P-type to ensure that when the actual torture started, no one at work would help me. They turned my coworkers into guards before the weapons were even turned on. 2. Testimony. The pre-manipulation character audit. TIs restate that the employer will often initiate a fake audit of the TI's computer or personal life to find or plant evidence of predatory behavior. About 6 months before the physical hit started, I randomly flagged my computer for a deep dive audit. They didn't find anything because there was nothing to find, but the rumor was leaked to the whole office that I was being investigated for disturbing content. This is the priming phase. By the time they started hitting me with the P concoction, forced arousal, in the break room, my coworkers had already been told I was a P-type. So when I looked uncomfortable or flushed, they didn't see a man being tortured. They saw a guilty man reacting to his dark thoughts. The employer used defamation to build the cage before they put me in it. 3. Analysis.